Our next Reddit post is from Mollis. M demanded 5 passengers be removed from a flight. This happened in 2018 when WoW Air was still operating. I was on a direct flight from Reykjavik to Los Angeles, when the flight was cancelled morning before departure. We weren't notified, and instead, all of our electronic tickets were changed automatically and said our destination was Baltimore, so we were all kind of in a frenzy to figure out how to get home. A few dozen of us were lined up at the information desk where a single employee had to write our connecting flight information on sticky notes. I had been in line for about a half an hour, with just a few minutes until boarding when a mother with 4 children cut in front of everybody in line, pushed away the person who was speaking to the employee demanding that she and her children are placed on the same flight as her husband, since he was placed on our flight, and she was placed on a flight a couple hours later than his. Everyone who was still in line was annoyed because we had been waiting for a long time and our flight was about to depart. She started yelling at this employee, demanding that she remove 5 passengers from the flight so she could fly with her husband. She pointed at those of us who were still in line and said, "Remove some of these people. They don't have kids with them like I do." They argued for a few minutes until she finally gave up. 10 minutes later, I received my post-it note with the information for my Southwest Airlines flight from Baltimore to LA written on it, and because of M, a dozen of us had to sprint to the gate to catch our flight. Our next Reddit post is from Himabi. Entitled "Mother Basically Kidnaps a Member of Staff at My Work." So this happened yesterday while I was off work, so I'm just going to be retelling you a story I just got told. A middle-aged lady came into the store yesterday with her 2 kids and used one of our scan-as-you-shop devices to do her shopping. It totaled out to around 260 pounds and she ended up with around 2 trolleys full of food. She had decided to ask at the customer service desk for some help getting her shopping out to the car, and she didn't want her child to push a trolley through the car park, so a member of staff helped her out to her vehicle. Around 20 minutes later, he still hadn't come back into the store and his manager went out to go and look for him, his manager being the one who told me the story, and this is what he found. The mother owned a big car with a booth that folded down and let you walk inside. Apparently the employee who was helping her had been asked to put the shopping into the boot by walking inside, and while doing so the mother had closed and locked the boot. The manager demanded the M let out his member of staff, and originally she refused, saying something along the lines of, "He said he would come home and help me take the bags into my house." After threatening to call the police, the M opened the boot and let the guy out, and was promptly banned from returning. Unfortunately, I can only tell you what I was told, so there might have been some juicy details I ended up missing out on. Our next Reddit post is from Running Out Zero Time. Entitled "Parent Says It's My Autistic Little Brother's Fault for Being Bullied." Who's who? Me, 16F at the time, Chase, 6, versus BB, Boss Baby, M, entitled Mom. This was a few years ago, but it still makes me really mad, so I wanted to post it. At the time I was 16 and my little brother Chase was 6. He is autistic and mostly nonverbal. He does talk, but it is a mixture of gibberish with words that only me and my older sister can easily understand because we cared for him most often. He has an extremely hard time understanding social cues and cannot comprehend others not wanting to play with him, so it's sometimes hard for other kids to understand him and vice versa. There was a crappy little kid that lived in my neighborhood. He and his M and his grandpa were our neighbors. I never knew much about them personally, but the neighbor my mom was friends with told me some info about her after I told her what she said, because at one time M and her were friends. M was living in her dad's house with her kid and spoiling the ever-loving crap out of the little guy who was around 5, but I couldn't say for sure. He had a yard full of toys and expensive play places and climbing sets for kids, even one with a little clubhouse. So of course he would leave toys everywhere, and almost every kid in the neighborhood would converge in our cul-de-sac to play because he had the most expensive / funnest / nicest / newest toys, and we lived off a quiet part of the road, so it was safer. Dozens of times I saw shattered toys from where he left things in the road and let them get smashed because he knew he'd just get more. He would tease other kids and call their cheap stuffed baby toys, and his piece of crap mother would always defend her perfect shitty little angel no matter how many times people told her about his misbehavior. He looked like Boss Baby with a more kickable face, hence why I'll refer to him as BB. My little brother and sister often played outside after I got off school almost every day, and one day I had the front door wide open so I could hear / see them from the kitchen where I was making them some food. I suddenly hear a commotion outside, some abrupt laughter and some screams. I swear I just checked on Chase 2 seconds ago and saw him running towards some kids. I bolt out to the yard and he's kind of frantic, like he's upset about something. But once he's in that state he cannot communicate what's upsetting him, and he just goes inside. I figured the neighborhood kids were being mean to him again because of that one specific little shit who was godawful. I figured they were being bullies again, and my mom was drunk in the middle of the day like usual, so I couldn't send her out to delegate or argue with any adults in charge of those mean kids, so I put it out of my mind for a bit and finished making Chase some food. Then I hear a banging on the screen door in M's shrill voice. I had never spoken to this woman before and she had never been to our house, so I was shocked to see her on our porch. "Em, do you know what he was doing out here?" Me, yeah, I was watching him, but I did hear a commotion. Did something happen?" "Em, that boy was exposing himself to my child and all the other children out here. You should have him put away, he can't come out here and do that." She wasn't quite shouting, but her voice was rising in intensity as she spoke. Me, what? I had no idea. I'm sure he didn't just pull his pants down, maybe another kid did something to him. He did seem upset but wouldn't say why. What was happening out there? Did anyone else see that can tell me what happened? She cuts me off with, "Em, being autistic is no excuse. He pulled his pants down, my son told me he saw. I could call the police on you." I honestly couldn't remember much of what Em said besides that, because I was extremely pissed to hear her say that. How dare some neurotypical bitch tell someone that their autism doesn't matter. Em stormed off and I was worried about what really happened, spent a good bit of time talking to Chase to figure it out. What I understand is that the group of kids he came up to were all BB's friends and made fun of the way he talked/acted, then somebody, I suspect the lil shit himself, pantsed him. Chase got his pants yanked down as a prank and they laughed at him, then that insufferable boy told Em that the weird kid pulled his own pants down in front of me. And of course she believes him with no second thought, and no one else can get a word in edgewise besides her little golden child. Once I knew what really went down, I couldn't just go outside and argue with / scream at a grown-ass lady, tell her she's raising a kid as awful and horrible as she is, and by the time I got an answer from Chase the sun was going down, so the crappy family went back inside. I wish I'd had the backbone back then to tell that woman to shove it where the sun don't shine right then and there after her making light of my little brother's condition. For his sake, since he couldn't stand up for himself, I should've. But after that I watched him very closely, going outside with him often, and dealt with those mean kids myself when they bullied my brother. To hell with the hippo across the street. TLDR, my baby brother gets pantsed as a prank and blamed for exposing himself because he's autistic, and entitled mother believes her baby can do no wrong. Our next Reddit post is from _Satantha_. ESM tries to get the attention on her at my cancer benefit. Last story is posted. Here https://www.reddit.com/r/entitled_parents/comment/o_coofies/ism_ur_score _up_up_art/question markup_source=share amp_me=equals My ESM's backstory https://www.reddit.com/r/entitled_parents/comment/over95t/the_entitled_stepmother/question markup_source=medium=iosp. As I have mentioned before, I had cancer when I was 16. And that obviously means high medical bills. For this, we held many benefits and we ended up raising $20,000 for my bills. This was one of my first benefits. This one was a motorcycle run. I stayed at one bar with the big majority of my family, but other guests rode to other bars on their motorcycles, then to return to the bar I was at. I was going to the last bar that the bikers were at, and I was going to ride in a sidecar that was attached to my step-grandfather's motorcycle back to the original bar. It's cooler than it sounds, lol. Anyway, my dad and ESM were going to be driving my dad's 80s Chevrolet car. It's a pretty cool car. Can't remember the exact name of it though, I'm horrible with car names. They were driving the bikers into the bar's parking lot. I didn't see this at the time because I was in the sidecar, but my SM was hanging out her car window and was waving and saying hey. Hi. To the people she was passing, to which it looked like she was trying to get everybody to stare at her and not me. My grandmother, my dad's mom, hates my SM and took a picture of her waving and posted the picture on her Instagram, and this is the exact caption under the picture: Miss fucking America, or is it prom queen from hell, or maybe Miss damaged goods. Overall, my grandma is a fucking savage. Our next Reddit post is from Starlin. Entitled Mom Almost Gets Kids Run Over. My family is currently at Disney World, which is basically a case study in how entitled human beings can be. Make no mistake, I have also met many wonderful humans thus far into the trip, but I have also met several that really test the limits of my patience. And I have an excessive patience compared to most. Here is my favorite so far. My aunt used an ECV, essentially an electric scooter. We tried to avoid using it and then she fractured her ankle, so haha, nice try us. Driving one of these through Disney World might seem nice, and in some ways it is, but it will also fill you with anger as you find that apparently people think the correct response to these is jump in front of it as fast as possible. So in this case we were passing It's a Small World to find where to enter or park the scooter or whatever. As we are, another woman in a scooter is passing us. They both slow down, which is the courteous thing. Both want to make sure they have clearance so they don't hit each other. I'm with my aunt, making sure it's all clear. Suddenly a woman dragging two kids darts between both of these still moving scooters, and one of her kids nearly gets taken out by my aunt. Now I tried desperately to assume the best in others and figured in the moment she didn't realize what was happening, so I shouted, "Ma'am, please be careful, we nearly hit you." That was my mistake apparently, as the woman promptly stopped in front of my aunt, bringing all traffic to a halt, spun around and gave me the dirtiest look. "Well, don't hit me then." I am a deer in the headlights at this point because my brain short-circuited at such an incoherently rude response. My aunt, a special ed teacher and no stranger to shitty entitled parents, snaps back at her that she can't just dart in front of people or her kids would get hurt. Now this could have gotten ugly, but in a twist the hero is my cousin, the world's most awkward 14-year-old boy, a triumph. Before this woman responds to my aunt, he shouts, "Stopping and talking is not walking at all three of us." This gets mine and my aunt's attention and the woman sulks away with her kids. The other scooter driver is still near us and starts laughing. I like him. The lesson is, for God's sake, don't walk in front of mobility devices if you can avoid it. Positive story to cleanse the palate. We rode Small World after this encounter with a young family sitting behind us. As we got off, the dad left to fetch something from a stroller outside, leaving mom with 3 kids. At some point their littlest one, a toddler, wanted to run off and explore. Unfortunately, it was in the midst of several people trying to move scooters and wheelchairs out of the ride. I managed to stop the flow of traffic long enough to gently lead him back to mom, and I'll admit I was shocked that she responded with "Ah, my baby. Thank you so much," and picking him up immediately. Living proof that it isn't mistakes that make you who you are, it is how you react to being corrected. TLDR woman almost gets run over by mobility device after she runs in front of it at WDW, gets mad at the gentle warning to not do that. Our next Reddit post is from Cassie_121. Entitled, "Mom tries to steal my preselected seat." So this happened about 2 years ago, but I just went on a flight recently and was reminded of it. My family had an event that we had to go to that was across the country. A lot of my family, my mom, dad, sister, and several aunts/uncles/cousins, had already flown out the week before, but I had work and my daughter had preschool, so we stayed behind and were going to fly separately on the weekend. My aunt had a little girl that she couldn't bring when she went, so she asked that I bring her with me when I and my daughter flew. My aunt's daughter Grace was almost 2, but she was nonverbal so far, and my daughter Alori was a little over 3. I was 18, Alori was conceived out of assault, and yes, I was crazy to fly with 2 toddlers alone. Since I was flying with 2 toddlers, I wanted to make sure that we had a row to ourselves. I was planning on having Alori in the window, Grace in the middle, and me in the aisle. So I went for the slightly more expensive option of choosing preselected seats. We got to be in priority boarding, so we boarded before a lot of the other passengers. We had checked our suitcases, so I just had my backpack with all the things I would need: jackets, food, toys, my electronics, and a diaper bag. So I had Grace strapped to my front, my backpack on my back, the diaper bag in one hand and Alori's hand in my other. I was saddled up. I got on the plane with no fuss from the girls, but when I got to our designated seats, yep, you guessed it, an entitled mom and her son, probably about 6 or 7, were sitting in our row. Me, excuse me, these are our seats. We pre-selected them. I'm sorry honey, but it's open seating and I got here first. You can go find another seat. Me, no, this is my row. I pre-selected it online and paid extra for it. Honey, that's not how it works on this airline. And unaccompanied minors need to fly next to the flight attendants anyways. Me, getting exasperated and exhausted, still holding a baby and a backpack. I'm an adult, and this is my daughter. Please move, or I will need to get the flight attendant. Go ahead, she will tell you the same thing. So of course I go get a flight attendant and explain the situation and show her my ticket. Enter flight attendant, FA. FA, ma'am, she did in fact pre-select this row, so I'm gonna need you to move to another seat. EM, excuse me? FA, please move to another seat, we have plenty. EM, no, we got here first and my son needs to be over the wing. FA looks slightly annoyed at this but keeps her customer service voice. Why don't I help you find another seat? I'm sure your son will be fine. EM, no, I'm staying in this seat because I got here first. At this point, the lorry was getting antsy standing in one place, and FA noticed. FA, sweetie, why don't you take a seat right there while I sort this out? I'll bring you an apple juice in a little bit. Elori sat down in a seat on the other side of the row, the one empty seat in the aisle of the plane that was filling up. FA to M, we are going to have to remove you from the aircraft if you don't move to another seat. M finally gets up at this point and drags her child behind her, pushing past us, saying angrily at me and the girls, "You teenagers are so entitled." FA apologizes to me and helps me settle the girls and my things into our row. FA, wonderful job dealing, by the way, you seem like a very responsible big sister. Me, actually the older one is my daughter, younger is my cousin. FA smiles, then you are a very good mother. I'll get you an apple juice for the kids, just make sure you stow it before we take off. Let me know if there is anything else I can do to help you. Our next Reddit post is from Icefolk. Teacher and classmates lie about seeing me where I wasn't supposed to be. Sorry if it is written in a weird way, I'm not a native English speaker. If it doesn't fit the sub, just let me know and I'll take it down. After reading the story about the girl being beaten up by her mother for not believing her, because of an adult lying, I remembered a similar story that happened to me in school, though not nearly as violent. Also, it wasn't an entitled mom but a teacher, so I hope it fits the sub anyways. Story, I was at school playing with my classmates in the break, the same classmates that would eventually end up bullying me for believing I was homosexual, but that's for another story, so we were playing hide and seek. I chose a really good hiding spot and no one managed to find me. I spent 30 minutes hidden until I heard they were calling my name, but I decided not to come out because I thought the game was still going and I didn't want to lose. So the bell rang, meaning break is over, and I came out, only to realize my whole class was looking for me, even the teacher. Then, many of my classmates started shouting at me angrily, because they thought I was hidden in a forbidden place for students, the second floor. But after negating it, they started incriminating me, and even the teacher started lying, saying she saw me in the second floor and that I ignored her when she called me. Of course it was all bullshit, but no one would believe I was at such a good but simple hiding spot. My only reaction to this situation was to start crying, because I couldn't believe everyone was lying about such a stupid thing. Everyone made fun of me for crying, and another teacher told me that it wasn't worth it to cry over this. Our next Reddit post is from Which One Is Pink. This happened LSSD month, but still upsets me. When my father ruined Valentine's Day. So, backstory. I'm a Brazilian, 22 unemployed male who's on a long-distance relationship. Our story is pretty cute. We've met 7 years ago, time passed and she moved out to Sao Paulo, where my father lives. But this is not the story I want to tell. During this trip, me and GF did hang a lot, traveled to Rio and enjoyed our time. Since I live in Curitiba, about 300 kilometers far from SP, we wanted to enjoy ourselves before my return home, which should be at 26th of May. 24th of May she suffered an accident, slipped over the stairs and broke her 5th metatarsus. This fracture rendered her handicapped for a few weeks, needing to walk with crutches and be careful for the bone to heal. So I had to stay for another month so I could take care of her, do laundry, dishes, cook, etc. My father knew this. During the treatment she was progressing really well, and thankfully she's healed fully as I write this. We were happy. Also, my credit card emailed me an info saying that I had a chargeback accepted and it was Valentine's Day, so we decided to eat at a churrascaria, a all-you-can-eat steakhouse. Brazil celebrates Valentine's Day in June 12th. It was the 3-ish week of her treatment. She was still wearing the plaster cast and walking with crutches. We sat on a table near the doorway so she wouldn't have to walk for too long, as it was tiring and her feet ached. We sat right in front of 2 guys catcalling women in the steakhouse and saying things like it's not my fault she, his wife, I presume, is married, and laughing like an idiot. Basically, both married men leaving their wives hanging on Valentine's Day to cheat on them. This was very annoying and emotionally distressing, since it brought bad memories and thoughts on us. But we shrugged it off and tried to enjoy the night, joke on the candlelit dinner, which was literally a single candle per table with all the bright lights on, and many more. Context again, a week before COVID, I started a flight attendant course. This relatively short course, 6 months, turned into a 1.5 year long nightmare due to constant rescheduling, canceling classes and whatnot. We've stumbled our way to the end, and the only thing that stood between us and the final test was the jungle survival training. Every flight attendant in Brazil is trained with a basic jungle survival skills. Building shelter, firefighting, first aid, finding food, building traps, etc. My jungle survival was scheduled for June 20th, so I was leaving to Curitiba, partaking this training and returning to Sao Paulo. So I've asked my father if he had a camping knife and a battery torch, to which he replied he didn't. Then, he began to ask me about the course and when I should return to Curitiba and get a job. I've replied that I couldn't leave just yet because my GF had a broken feet and I had to give her ASI stance for a few weeks more. Hell begun. He started calling me stupid and naive, saying that my GF was using me and that she was egotistical and that I was losing track of life. This was so surprising for me even now, a month later, writing this. He never acted like that. It was something I could expect coming from my mom, which said so many things it turned my GF off completely from coming to my city and staying at my home. My parents, even though hard to deal with, aren't like this, though. My father is always respectful. He knew my GF and her qualities. They've talked many times. It made me so upset and distressed I've left the steakhouse in complete silence. To add insult to injury, that chargeback was a complete scam and I had to use the debt card. Back home we've talked. I wanted to cry but I couldn't. I was just confused. Me and my father didn't talk for days after, until the day he called me asking why a credit card was calling him, looking for me, saying there was a debt to pay, and saying how I'm sinking financially. There was, indeed, a debt to pay. The freaking monthly bill for that card. So he accused me of yet another thing I didn't do, plus the totally asshole fact that a credit card called my father to talk about my personal finances. I'm not a minor FFS. This flipped my shit so I called him, we've talked, he apologized and settled this fight. Me and my father always had a good relationship. It was like he flipped personalities completely. He never acted entitled, even when I acted like a spoiled brat as a kid. He accused her without knowing the full picture. She couldn't stand to wash a few dishes without feeling intense pain. During the first days following the accident she had no mobility and needed help to even go to the toilet. She's the most selfless person I know, the kind of person that would do all I did for her, for me, doubled, and there were times she felt bad for not being able to help, fearing she was being a chore. Being called those things, by the way, from the person she preferred and considered the best of my parents, whom she talked to and always considered educated, was such a hit for both of us. I've helped her because I love her. Bought her crutches, a boot so she could remove that plaster cast, gave her all the attention and care. This feels so unfair, all those things we had to read during Valentine's Day, during a very special day for both of us, from someone we've considered to be kind and comprehensive. Things are okay now. I'm back on good terms with my parents and I'm already suffering the anticipation of returning home after such an eventful trip. But I fear the image I had of my father could change in the future, and affect my relationship. I hope time will prove me wrong, and that he really recognized, from the bottom of his heart, that what he did was wrong and that he's truly sorry. Thank you so much for watching these tales from Reddit. Consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video if you enjoyed. Also consider checking out one of our other videos.